If you've ever felt like the world was speaking a language that you almost understood, but not quite, then this message might be for you. Not everyone will connect with it. Not everyone is supposed to. But if something inside you is stirring as you read these words, then stay with me. There are truths in this life so profound, so spiritually coded, that they cannot be taught in the traditional sense. They must be felt, experienced, and ultimately remembered. And that remembering only happens when the soul is ready. If you found your way here, it's not a coincidence. There are no accidents when it comes to spiritual timing. Something has led you, pulled you, drawn you with invisible threads. And maybe you felt this pull for a long time. You couldn't name it, couldn't explain it, but it was always there. Like a quiet hum beneath the noise of everyday life, a whisper that kept reminding you, you're not like the others. You've sensed it, haven't you? That strange feeling of being different, even when everything around you looked normal. The odd distance you feel in a crowded room, even while smiling, even while laughing. That inner sense that you're here for something more, something bigger than the ordinary patterns of life. And for a long time, maybe you thought it was your weakness. Maybe others told you it was. Too quiet, too deep, too sensitive, too intense. But what if that sensitivity is sacred? You carry something rare, a frequency, a divine resonance, a spiritual fingerprint that sets you apart. The world won't often talk about it, and when it does, it usually gets it wrong. But deep down, you've always known that your path doesn't look like everyone else's. It's not supposed to, because you were chosen. Chosen ones walk a different path. It doesn't always make sense to others. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense to us. But those who are marked by divine purpose often feel the call before they know what it means. It shows up as restlessness, as dreams that seem too big, as pain that seems too deep, as intuition that won't go away. And for many, that calling remains dormant, buried beneath years of noise, distraction, fear, or forgetting. But every now and then, something wakes you up. A sentence, a voice, a moment. And suddenly, you remember, not with your mind, but with your soul. Right now, we are about to explore 3 spiritual marks that only God's chosen ones carry. These are not just traits, they are signs, signatures of your divine identity, and we'll move through them step by step, each one building on the last, until we reach the 3rd and final mark, the one that often lies hidden, waiting for the exact right moment to be revealed. For many, just recognizing that 3rd mark is the key that unlocks a full spiritual awakening. An echo of remembrance that brings everything into focus. So if you feel your spirit stirring already, if your chest is tight or your breath is shallow or something deep inside you is saying pay attention, don't ignore it. That is your soul reacting to truth. And now, as we reach the 3rd mark, the one most often overlooked, we step into sacred territory. This mark is not loud. It doesn't draw attention to itself, but it holds extraordinary power. It is the gift of spiritual discernment, the ability to sense what others cannot see, to feel what others cannot explain. It's more than instinct. It's deeper than simple intuition. It's spiritual intelligence, divine perception, a knowing that transcends logic. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the energy shift? Like something was off, even though everything looked fine? Or maybe you've had moments where a deep sense of certainty flooded you, about a person, a place, a situation, and later that sense was proven true. You didn't have facts, you didn't need them, you knew. And that knowing was no accident. This is the 3rd spiritual mark, the hidden one. The one that whispers instead of shouts. It is spiritual radar. The ability to read the emotional, energetic, and spiritual atmosphere long before anything physical reveals itself. In 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15, Paul writes, "The person with the Spirit makes judgments about all things, but such a person is not subject to merely human judgments." What does that mean? It means the Spirit-filled individual operates on a higher frequency. They are tuned into a divine channel, receiving information that bypasses the 5 senses entirely. We see this clearly in the life of the prophet Elisha. In 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha warned the king of Israel about enemy ambushes, repeatedly and accurately. Not because he had spies, not because he had intel, because God was speaking directly to his spirit. So much so, the enemy king believed there must be a traitor in his own camp. He couldn't comprehend that Elisha was hearing conversations spoken in private, because Elisha had access to a realm the enemy didn't even believe existed. And that same access lives in you. Have you ever known something you couldn't explain? Have you ever felt truth before you saw it? That's the mark. That's the calling. That's the gift. People with this gift often feel like they're too much, too emotional, too intense, too observant. But what if the very thing that makes you different is the very thing that makes you divine? Even science has struggled to define people like you. Nikola Tesla once said, "My brain is only a receiver." In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. Though not a religious man, Tesla's words echo ancient truths. There is a source, and some of us were born tuned into it. You are not too sensitive. You are finely tuned. You are not overthinking. You are overfeeling, because you were designed to pick up what others miss. Your heart is an instrument in the hands of the divine, and when you learn to trust that, truly trust it, you step into a power most people will never understand. So now I ask you, are you ready to stop hiding? Are you ready to embrace what you've always been? Because when you recognize this third mark, something extraordinary happens. The lights come on, the dots connect, and suddenly all the years of feeling different begin to make sense. You weren't imagining it. You weren't broken. You were being prepared. Prepared to remember. Prepared to awaken. Prepared to rise. You were chosen. You always have been. And this is your time. You aren't imagining things. You're discerning. That inner alarm system within your soul, that early sensitivity to what others miss, it's not just intuition. It's the mark of a divine calling. What you're sensing isn't random or irrational. It's the evidence of a deeper connection, a resonance between your spirit and something far beyond the physical world. Long before language could explain it, your soul already knew. You felt it, that strange knowing, that quiet conviction before anything visible has taken shape. It's like truth tapping you on the shoulder before anyone else notices. This is not imagination. It is perception sharpened by design. You carry a spiritual antenna, finely tuned to the hidden frequencies that ripple through all of creation. Scripture says in Psalm 10 verse 2, "In his arrogance the wicked man hunts down the weak, who are caught in the schemes he devises." But before those schemes unfold, before the danger surfaces, someone senses it. That someone may be you. You may be that person standing in the stillness before the storm, feeling the shift in the air, while others are distracted by the calm. Science, surprisingly, is beginning to echo what faith has long understood. In the world of quantum physics, researchers now speak of the universe not as a structure of solid matter, but as a realm of vibrating energy and unseen potential. The observer effect proposes that simply watching something can change how it unfolds. Can it be that your spiritual awareness, your gift of sensing the unseen, interacts with the world in a similar way? That your very perception prepares the future before it arrives? In the Bible, there was a young man named Joseph. Before there was famine, before there was favor, before a single step of his destiny had unfolded, he saw it all in dreams. His brothers mocked him. They misunderstood his sight as arrogance. But Joseph wasn't guessing, he was receiving. And that reception of divine foresight became the rescue plan for nations. What looked like a curse was actually a key. What felt like rejection was positioning. Maybe you're like Joseph. Maybe you've been catching glimpses, feelings, impressions, warnings, long before they've manifested. You try to speak up, but people look at you sideways. You feel a weight before others see the threat. You sense urgency before anyone else has even noticed the shift in the atmosphere. And when you try to explain, they call you too much. Too sensitive. Overdramatic. But what if you're not too much? What if you're just ahead? That's the tension of spiritual foresight. Living out of sync with the natural timeline can feel isolating. You're carrying insight others aren't ready for, and yet you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand watch, to respond, to warn, to prepare. It's not a burden, it's a responsibility. Actress and humanitarian Angelina Jolie once said, "If you ask people what they've always wanted to do, most haven't done it. That breaks my heart." Her words expose a deeper truth. So many live disconnected from what they sense, numb to their inner compass. But you, chosen one, are different. You're not just hearing the whisper, you're being asked to move. Next time someone calls you intense, stop and ask, what if your timing is divine? What if you're not off beat but on time with heaven's rhythm? What if the very things others criticize are actually confirmations of your calling? You're not overreacting. You're responding. You're not paranoid. You're perceiving. You're not arrogant. You're awakened. Your soul is speaking through a language the world has forgotten, discernment. And it doesn't just stay in your soul, it travels through your body. That chill you feel when someone walks into the room, that tightening in your chest when something is wrong but no one else sees it. That sudden compulsion to leave, to step back, to cut a tie. You felt it before. Your physical body isn't betraying you, it's confirming the voice of the Spirit within you. It's a living temple, and the Holy Spirit speaks through its walls. David, before he ever became king, was just a young man bringing food to his brothers on the battlefield. But something shifted in him the moment he saw Goliath. His heart didn't pound with fear, it burned with righteous fire. That wasn't just adrenaline, it was spiritual recognition. His body responded before his mind had fully grasped what was about to happen. That stirring, that pull, it was heaven saying, get ready. You may not be facing a giant, but don't ignore what your body is trying to warn you about. That hesitation around certain people, that nausea when you're about to make a decision, that sudden stillness when you're about to say yes to the wrong thing. These aren't emotional glitches. They're spiritual alarms. And when you begin to listen, something begins to shift. Even outside the Bible, this truth echoes. Maya Angelou, the iconic poet and civil rights voice, once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." That's not just wisdom, it's discernment. It's the merging of body, soul, and spirit in full alert. When you begin to trust that sensitivity instead of suppressing it, you start walking in authority. You stop explaining yourself and start preparing. You stop defending your perception and start honoring it. So if you're wondering why you feel so much, why you're always the first to notice, why you carry this weight of awareness, know this. You were never called to be casual. You were never called to go with the flow. You were made to stand watch on the wall, to see ahead, to speak when no one else will. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is your armor. It's your assignment. It's your anointing. What if every chill that runs down your spine, every sudden instinct to pause, every unexplainable rush of adrenaline isn't just your body reacting to the moment, but something far deeper? Heaven's own mechanism for protecting you from what you can't yet see. What if these subtle nudges are not random, but divine signals, steering you around dangers cleverly cloaked in beauty, distraction, or logic? The moment you begin to honor these internal signals, your entire way of moving through life begins to shift. You stop leaning on what you can observe with your eyes or what seems reasonable to others. Instead, you start moving differently, guided not by what is visible, but by what is spiritually discerned. And this is where the transformation takes root. This is where change begins to take hold, not only on the outside but deep within. You find yourself no longer asking, does this make sense? And instead asking, is the Spirit giving me peace about this? Because you weren't designed to operate solely by logic or appearances. You weren't created to be ruled by sight alone. You were chosen to live by faith. And sometimes that faith looks like paying attention to what your body already knows and what your spirit is trying to say. As one of God's chosen ones, this sensitivity you carry isn't a fleeting or fragile thing. It's a seed of something much deeper, something sacred. Over time, as you keep tuning in, this gift matures, it sharpens. What starts as a gentle nudge evolves into a compass, a spiritual navigation system etched into your being. The more you listen to it, the clearer it becomes. The more you trust it, the stronger it gets. And eventually it begins to protect you, not just from external harm, but from the kind of choices that would derail your purpose and pull you away from the path God carved specifically for you. This compass doesn't come from fear, nor is it a product of human logic. It's grounded in spiritual truth and in alignment with your God-given design. You begin to notice that some decisions, while perfect on paper, simply don't sit right in your soul. There's a check in your spirit, a whisper that says, not this way. And though no one else may understand why you paused, turned down that opportunity, or walked away from what looked ideal, You know why. Deep down, you recognize that still small voice. Have you ever been in that moment? When everything around you seemed to shout yes, but something inside told you wait? That isn't hesitation. That is discernment awakening. That is your spirit hearing God's quiet voice amidst the world's loud promises. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21 puts it beautifully. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." That's not poetic metaphor. That is spiritual reality for the awakened soul. It's what happens when discernment becomes your guide, when you walk not by the light of day, but by the light of divine presence within. As your spiritual senses develop, you begin to sidestep entanglements that once would have trapped you. You avoid relationships that would have drained your joy. You say no to seemingly golden opportunities because they weren't appointed by God. You stop being driven by urgency and start being grounded in timing, God's timing. And this is not weakness, this is power, this is wisdom. Long before you or I ever walked this earth, a young king named Solomon asked for one thing, not fame, not fortune, not vengeance on his enemies, but for a discerning heart. 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 9 tells us he asked God, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." Solomon knew what many still don't. Discernment would protect him better than any sword ever could. That same divine discernment is being awakened in you now. Even in this modern world of noise, distraction, and pressure, the ancient wisdom is surfacing. People everywhere are beginning to remember what was nearly forgotten. Even those who don't use spiritual language can feel it stirring. Steve Jobs, a man more known for innovation than theology, once said during a commencement speech, "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become." Whether he knew it or not, his words echoed a spiritual truth, that your inner compass often knows the way long before your mind catches up. So what would change if you stopped silencing that nudge? What if, instead of brushing it off or reasoning it away, you began honoring it as the active presence of God within you? You'd begin living in harmony with divine flow. You'd stop chasing and start receiving. You'd stop spinning your wheels and start walking with direction. And yes, life would still have its challenges, but you'd suffer less, not because hardship disappears, but because you're no longer resisting your true path. That resistance is what multiplies pain. But when you surrender to the compass within, peace begins to rise, not just as a feeling, but as a way of life. This is what it means to be spiritually awake. You don't need confirmation from the outside world to move. You don't need validation. You don't need visibility. You've been chosen to carry an ancient knowing, a sensitivity that, if trusted, can save you from unnecessary sorrow and lead you directly into the arms of destiny. Are you ready to be led by it? When this gift fully awakens in you, it's impossible to remain the same. You begin to live as though you see what others cannot. And in truth, you do. Not with your natural eyes, but with spiritual clarity. You move with holy instinct. You act from a place of unseen knowledge. You speak from a depth that can't be taught in books. And once you stop treating those spiritual impressions as accidents or imagination, everything around you begins to realign. Confusion fades. Clarity rises. Opportunities flow in without you having to force them. Doors open, not because you pushed, but because your spirit was in tune with God's timing. This is what Psalm 37 verse 23 means when it says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way." You become a person whose life moves in rhythm with divine orchestration. It's no wonder things begin to work out. The universe itself, the very structure of God's created order, responds to those who walk in spiritual harmony. You find yourself in the right places, surrounded by the right people, engaged in the right work, without trying to manipulate a single outcome. People around you may not understand how you navigate life so smoothly. They may ask, "How did you know?" Or "How were you so sure?" But you'll know. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't luck. It was the Spirit. It was the voice of God guiding you, not always loudly, but always faithfully. And yet there's another layer to this gift, one more hidden, one you may have sensed, but not fully understood. There are those who recognize this mark on you long before you speak. You've felt it. You've walked into rooms where eyes turned toward you, not out of curiosity, but recognition. Something in them saw something in you. It wasn't your clothes. It wasn't your title. It was your spirit. They felt your presence before you said a word. That's the power of carrying God's mark. It speaks for you, it precedes you, it protects you, and it reveals you, not just to allies, but to those who would seek to pull you off course. They see it too. Because the spiritual realm is not blind, and when you carry the divine, both light and darkness take notice. So walk boldly in it. You weren't made to blend in. You were marked to stand out. Not for attention, not for applause, but for alignment. Alignment with God's will, God's pace, and God's purpose for your life. Keep listening, keep trusting, keep walking. The compass within will never lead you astray. There's a spiritual gravity to your existence. You don't need to announce yourself. You don't have to explain your calling or display credentials. Your very presence speaks, and what it says echoes into both light and darkness. Those walking in truth may be drawn to it, but those walking in deception? They may feel a tremor in your nearness. Something unsettles them, even before a word is spoken. This is not a new phenomenon. It's deeply biblical. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verse 34, a man tormented by an impure spirit cried out, "Go away! What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us?" The striking thing is this: Jesus hadn't even spoken to the man. It was simply his presence. That moment reveals a spiritual principle. Truth has a frequency that disturbs what hides in the shadows, and those who walk in that truth carry the same effect. Without even trying, your energy can provoke a reaction in a room. You may have noticed it, people growing tense around you, shifting their posture, growing silent, avoiding eye contact. You might not have said anything offensive, you might not have done anything out of place, and yet there's a friction that seems to come out of nowhere. Why? Because your spirit is speaking in a language deeper than words. It confronts without condemnation. It exposes without accusation. And that's often more unsettling than a direct challenge. Truth reveals. And for some, the mere act of being in your presence forces them to feel what they've spent years trying to forget. You may never know the full impact of what you carry, but others feel it long before they understand it. It's not just about being different. It's that your spiritual identity pierces through the surface of things. You carry light, and light makes hidden things visible. That's why people sometimes respond with discomfort. It's not about you personally. It's about what your presence makes them feel. They may not even be aware of it, but something within them knows. This person carries something that touches my shadows. Even in the secular world, the spiritually sensitive are aware of this unseen layer of interaction. Robin Williams, known for his humor and charm, once revealed a deeper awareness when he said, "Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always." His words acknowledged that there is more happening beneath the surface than meets the eye. And those who walk with spiritual weight can often detect those silent battles in others. You may sense pain behind perfectly arranged smiles. You might pick up on insecurity beneath bravado. What others miss, you perceive. And not because you're trying to analyze, but because your spirit is awake. This depth isn't something you earned. It was placed upon you, and it sets you apart. So if people are stirred by your presence, let them be. If atmospheres shift when you walk in, let them shift. It's not pride, it's not ego, it's anointing. You weren't made to go unnoticed. You were marked to carry something eternal, and the weight of that calling precedes you, even when you remain silent. Now consider something else, something quieter, more subtle, and yet just as spiritually revealing. Children and animals are drawn to you. Have you ever had a toddler lock eyes with you across a room, their gaze fixed and curious, as if seeing something others miss? Or a baby reach toward you with no prompting? Perhaps a cat curls up near you, or a dog instinctively follows you without fear. These aren't random moments. They are sacred signals. They are confirmations from creation itself. Children and animals, pure, unfiltered, spiritually sensitive, respond to energies in ways adults have long forgotten. They are not impressed by reputation. They are not swayed by fashion or language or charm. They move by instinct. They feel spiritual frequency. And when they gravitate toward you, when they show peace in your presence, what they are responding to is not your personality, it's your spirit. Jesus knew this. In Matthew chapter 21, verse 16, he referenced an ancient truth. From the lips of children and infants, you, Lord, have called forth your praise. And in Matthew chapter 19, verse 14, he said, Let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. He wasn't just making a cultural statement, he was revealing a spiritual pattern. Children are drawn to the divine because they still recognize it, and so are animals. In Numbers chapter 22, verse 28, God opened the mouth of Balaam's donkey to reveal divine warning. The animal saw the angel before the prophet did. That wasn't just a miracle, it was a message. Animals are attuned to the spiritual realm. Think of how often animals are the first to sense danger or the first to settle down in safe environments. When an animal rests in your presence, it means something more than comfort. It means peace has been recognized. Jane Goodall, the renowned primatologist, observed something similar during her decades of study. She once said, "Only if we understand can we care. Only if we care will we help. Only if we help shall all be saved." She believed animals sensed human intention and energy. And over time, she noticed how some people could walk among wild creatures without fear, not because of training, but because of the spirit they carried. If you've ever had these encounters where the innocent and the pure are drawn to you, don't overlook them. Ask yourself, what do they see that I haven't yet seen in myself? What are they responding to? Perhaps the light in you is more visible to the pure-hearted than to those caught in the noise of the world. Perhaps your spirit is sending out a message, you are safe here. And those who are still spiritually sensitive, whether child, animal, or stranger, hear it clearly. Your silence speaks, your presence heals, your energy calms. And the reason they come close without words, without invitation, is because they recognize what has been placed upon you. So if you've ever wondered why people react to you in ways you can't explain, if you've ever questioned why some resist and others cling, why some are threatened and others comforted, the answer may not be about what you're doing, but about who you are. You are aligned with your higher self. And those still capable of seeing with spiritual eyes, whether innocent children, loyal animals, or even broken souls, recognize the mark. It begins in a place deeper than language, deeper than thought, a quiet, unshakable core of your being where the image of God is not just reflected, but reflected without distortion. This isn't a metaphor, it's an energetic truth. When that core is in alignment, it radiates something unmistakable, a frequency, a spiritual vibration that is pure, coherent, and unmistakably healing. Not everyone can perceive it with their minds, but the spirit recognizes spirit. And when that vibration encounters a being still untouched by ego, pride, or the layers of social expectation, be it a child or an animal, the recognition is immediate. No words are needed, no introductions, no justifications. There is only presence, and presence is everything. You carry a light, invisible to the eye, yet undeniable to the heart. And that light speaks. It speaks straight to the soul, bypassing intellect and logic, resonating in a language that doesn't require translation. This is what it means to walk in divine alignment. Not to act holy, but to live in tune with the source of all holiness. That is why the smallest among us, children with barely formed vocabularies, animals with no concept of religion or theology, are drawn to you. They don't need explanations. They don't need proof. What they feel is resonance. Something in you echoes something they still remember but cannot name. It's not cognitive, it's spiritual. In the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27, Jesus says, "My sheep listen to my voice, I know them and they follow me." He wasn't referring simply to sound waves or spoken language. He was speaking of spiritual recognition, the kind that goes beyond hearing and enters the realm of knowing. When a baby gazes at you with unwavering eyes, when a dog curls up at your feet without hesitation, it is because they have heard something unspoken in you, a silent voice that carries the cadence of heaven. They respond, not because they understand with their minds, but because they perceive with their spirits. That same voice echoed through the prophet Samuel when he was just a child. In 1 Samuel chapter 3, God called to Samuel, And though he didn't recognize the voice at first, his untainted spirit was attuned enough to eventually respond. He could still hear what older, more qualified ears had long since forgotten: how to truly listen. In that same way, the light within you speaks. Even if you're unaware of it, even if you never speak a word, it emits a call, a spiritual signature, that those who are still pure or who are yearning for purity can feel. And they come, not to you, but to the divine echo within you. Even in the secular world, this reality has not gone unnoticed. Fred Rogers, the gentle and wise creator of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, understood this in his bones. He was a man deeply attuned to energy, especially as it affects the sensitive hearts of children. When we can be present to the moment with the person that we happen to be with, he once said, that's what's important. Presence, not performance. Authentic, undivided presence. That's what heals. That's what transforms, and that's what you carry. So the question must be asked, what does your presence say without words to those around you? Does it speak of safety, of peace, of divine love? Because even if you aren't consciously aware of it, the unguarded ones, those too young or too free to hide behind pretense, are already answering. They are already responding, not to your talent, not to your status, but to your essence, to the God essence shining through the cracks of your humanity. This isn't about charisma. It isn't about likability or charm. Those things can be learned, rehearsed, and even faked. No, this is something altogether different. This is about sacred resonance. A spiritual imprint that can't be fabricated or copied. It's either there or it isn't. And when it is, it changes the environment. You are marked. Not in a flashy or performative way, but in the quiet, unmistakable way that heaven marks its own. You have been given the kind of light that doesn't seek attention but draws it anyway. The kind of vibration that doesn't speak loudly, yet speaks volumes. And yes, that can be unsettling to some. Have you noticed? Some people are magnetically drawn to you. Others seem to distance themselves without reason. You may not have said anything controversial, and yet something about you unsettles them. Why? Because your frequency acts like a mirror. It reflects where others are in or out of alignment. To the soul that is open, your presence feels like peace. But to the one hiding from truth, your light feels like exposure. It's not personal, it's spiritual. This is the same dynamic we see in the life of Jesus. In Mark chapter 5, a woman who had been suffering for 12 years reached out in a crowd and touched the hem of his garment. Instantly, she was healed. Not because Jesus declared healing over her, but because his frequency, his divine alignment, carried tangible power. The text says that Jesus felt the power go out from him. What if the same spiritual current flows through you? What if others are affected, calmed, convicted, comforted, simply by standing near your alignment? Mother Teresa was another embodiment of this kind of resonance. She didn't need grandeur. She didn't need a platform, yet people came from all over the world just to be in her presence. She once said, "Peace begins with a smile." And that smile, coming from a soul aligned with God, could soften the hardest heart. Her life whispered the language of heaven, and the world listened. So perhaps you've underestimated what you carry. Perhaps you've mistaken your sensitivity or your impact for something ordinary, but it's not ordinary, it's sacred. You are not just someone with kind eyes or a calming voice. You are a living sanctuary, a space where people unknowingly encounter something eternal, something of God. You don't have to preach, you don't have to prove anything. All you have to do is be who you are, aligned with the one who made you. That's when the frequency becomes unmistakable. That's when the divine resonance flows unhindered, and the world needs it desperately. And in this world so layered and loud, ask yourself, what really happens when you walk into a room? Not just what people see, but what they feel. Have you noticed? The silence shifts, eyes lift, hearts long closed to strangers seem to open just a little. Maybe you haven't fully realized it yet, but there's something about you that speaks before your mouth ever does. A mark, a presence, a spiritual anointing not worn like a badge, but carried like breath, unseen yet undeniable. This isn't charisma, it's not personality, it's something deeper, something divine. The truth is, if you've ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere change without saying a word, you've touched the edge of that mystery. You may not seek attention, you may avoid the spotlight, but your presence, It reaches places language can't touch. It presses into invisible spaces, into aching hearts, weary minds, forgotten corners of people's souls, and brings a kind of healing they didn't know they needed. It's sacred, it's spiritual, it's real. This force within you isn't just energy, it's a divine signature, a whisper from heaven that you belong to something greater. You may pass through life quietly, but your quiet speaks in thunder. When a child looks at you and smiles without prompt, or when a dog curls up beside you and sleeps in peace, it isn't coincidence. These moments are not just sweet, they're signals. The world recognizes what the spirit already knows. You are aligned. Aligned with your purpose, aligned with your creator, and your energy testifies. Daniel of the Old Testament carried this same invisible flame. Scripture tells us in Daniel chapter 6 verse 3 that Daniel distinguished himself because an excellent spirit was in him. He was a stranger in a foreign land, surrounded by different customs, beliefs, and rulers. Yet his presence stood out, without striving, without shouting, without needing validation. His very being commanded attention because excellence was embedded in his spirit. Isn't it possible, just possible, that you walk in that same quiet excellence? That people feel safe with you without knowing why? That strangers open their hearts, confess their fears, share their pain, and you're left wondering why they chose you? You didn't ask for it. You didn't plan it. But your soul leaves fingerprints. Not because you're perfect, but because you're in tune with the one who is. Some spend their whole lives chasing this resonance, this spiritual harmony. You already carry it. It's not learned, it's revealed. It's the mark of someone walking in divine alignment, a reflection not of effort, but of surrender. Viola Davis, a woman who has wrestled with pain and emerged resilient, once said, "You can't be hesitant about who you are." Her strength wasn't in being loud, but in being rooted. Rooted in identity, rooted in truth, rooted in God. And you? You echo that same rooted strength. Not in volume, in presence. So if you've ever felt that unexplainable pull when someone looks at you a moment too long, or confesses a truth they've never said aloud, or simply feels calmer when you're near, pause. That's not ordinary. That's divine resonance. That's your spirit speaking before your words. And maybe you've whispered to yourself, "My energy speaks before my words." It's not just a mantra, it's a spiritual fact. But there's another mark deeper still. One that shapes not just how the world sees you, but how reality responds to you. Have you ever noticed that your thoughts seem to manifest? That what you imagine, really deeply imagine, tends to unfold in the real world? Not once, not twice, but again and again, with a precision that defies logic. You think of someone, they call, you visualize a situation, it happens, you dream a path and somehow it opens. This isn't luck, it's not chance. It's not manifestation trends or magic spells. It's the result of spiritual alignment so profound that your thoughts begin to carry weight in unseen dimensions. It's the kind of gift few understand, fewer still believe. But you? You've lived it, quietly, repeatedly, faithfully. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 tells us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Why the mind? Because the mind is the gateway to creation. When your thoughts are aligned with God's will, they stop being wishes. They become declarations, commands, seeds that create. Think of Elijah. In 1 Kings chapter 18, after years of drought, Elijah didn't just pray for rain, he believed for it. And from his focused prayer came a cloud the size of a man's hand, followed by a storm that quenched a dry and desperate land. That wasn't coincidence. That was alignment. That was the power of a renewed mind tethered to heaven's will. And you? You've glimpsed that same power. You may not have called down rain, but you've thought, and it's happened. You've dreamed and seen it bloom. You've aligned and watched doors open no one else could budge. This ability is often misunderstood. Some mock it, others envy it. But the truth is, this is not about superstition or law of attraction hype. This is not about religion. It's about resonance. It's about design. It's about a spiritual law wired into the nature of being chosen. When your soul is aligned with the one who made you, your mind becomes a conduit for creation. Your thoughts, your clarity, your faith, they don't just move you, they move the world around you. This is the quiet gift of the chosen, to create not from ego but from essence. So ask yourself again, what happens when you enter the room? Maybe now you already know. Consider Steve Harvey, a man whose journey from homelessness to global success is nothing short of remarkable. Long before his name was known across television screens, long before the world recognized his talent, he wrote down a clear vision on a simple piece of paper: to be on television. But he did not stop there. He spoke it aloud. He visualized it day after day, and most importantly, he believed it with unwavering faith. Today, his life stands as living proof that focused thought, when paired with steadfast faith, can bring about extraordinary transformation. Yet, Steve Harvey is not an exception. This same power lives within you too. How often has a focused thought of yours suddenly turned into real-life experience? How many times have you dismissed those moments as mere coincidence, shrugging them off as luck or chance? Maybe it is time to open your eyes and recognize the incredible power that lies within your own mind. This ability you possess is not random. It is intentional. It is a divine signal, an indicator that you are deeply connected to the spiritual currents that flow through the world, shaping reality in ways unseen. Have you ever experienced a moment where a thought you focused on so intensely, perhaps even obsessively, suddenly seemed to materialize in your life within days? Maybe you found yourself thinking about a certain person, an opportunity, or even a challenge, and before long that very thing appeared before you. At first, it might have felt strange or uncanny, maybe even a little unsettling. You might have told yourself it was just coincidence, but deep down you knew it wasn't random. That was your spiritual power at work. As one of God's chosen ones, your thoughts are never idle. They are not just private whispers in your mind. Instead, they are signals, messages broadcast into the unseen spiritual field of possibility, and that field, created by God, responds. You are not merely thinking, you are creating. Every clear, emotion-charged thought you repeat acts like a spiritual decree, sending ripples through the invisible atmosphere until those ripples collapse potential into reality. Could this be why your life often reflects the very things you focus on, whether good or bad? This is not just some New Age idea, it is rooted in ancient biblical truth. Proverbs 23 verse 7 says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." What lives persistently in your inner world will eventually shape your outer world. That is why your thoughts matter so much. It is also why Jesus often spoke about the heart and the mind when healing others. He understood that the true battle was not just physical, but spiritual and mental. The mark you carry is invisible to the eye. It is not something you wear on your face or hear in your voice. Instead, it is encoded deep within the way your mind interacts with reality. You don't simply respond to life, you influence it. Your thoughts vibrate with energy. When charged with emotion and clarity, they act like magnets, drawing people, circumstances, and outcomes that match their frequency. But this power comes with great responsibility. Just as your focused thoughts can bring blessings, they can also bring burdens. Your mental atmosphere is fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant, hope or fear, peace or anxiety, will eventually grow. Have you noticed that when you dwell on worst-case scenarios, chaos seems to increase? Meanwhile, focusing on solutions can open unexpected doors. Look at the story of Joseph from the book of Genesis. Sold into slavery by his own brothers and later imprisoned unjustly, Joseph never let bitterness take root in his mind. Instead, he clung tightly to the vision God gave him. Despite his harsh circumstances, Joseph's faith-filled thoughts shaped his reality, eventually elevating him to second in command over all Egypt, as told in Genesis 41. Could such transformation have been possible if Joseph had allowed fear and hatred to dominate his mind? The answer is no. In more recent times, consider Jim Carrey, the actor and comedian who famously wrote himself a check for $10 million before he ever earned that kind of money. He carried that vision in his heart, and years later, it became his reality. His story may seem unusual, but it echoes an ancient truth. What you dwell on persistently becomes your lived experience. This mark you carry is not to be taken lightly. You have the power to shape your world, not through brute force, but through the inner architecture of your mind. So ask yourself, what have you been focusing on lately? What thoughts have you repeated with emotional intensity? You may already be walking toward the answers you have unconsciously created. Most people go through life asleep to this power within them. They chalk their victories up to luck or coincidence and explain their failures as mere misfortune. But you, as one of God's chosen ones, understand something much deeper. You know life is not shaped by chance, but by intention. You have seen too much, felt too deeply, and known too clearly to believe in mere randomness anymore. You've come to recognize that your mind is much more than just a tool for thinking. It is a sacred conduit, a bridge connecting the invisible realm to the visible one. It's through this sacred channel that unseen truths flow and take form in tangible, real-world experiences. Once you understand this, your thoughts no longer feel aimless, powerless, or passive. Instead, they become living seeds, imbued with energy, nourished by your focus, your faith, and your conscious awareness of this divine process. As your awareness of this deeper truth expands, so does your capacity to co-create with God. You stop reacting to life's circumstances as though you are a mere observer, and instead, you begin to actively shape your existence with spiritual precision. Have you ever noticed how your inner world manifests itself in the events of your outer world? This is no coincidence. It's the mind working in harmony with divine purpose, setting the stage for you to experience what you've already envisioned. The Bible echoes this profound truth. In Matthew 9:29, Jesus tells us, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." He didn't say, according to luck, or according to your effort, or even according to your social status. He spoke to the root of creation, faith. Faith begins in the mind. It begins as a thought rooted in trust, clarity, and belief. And it is through faith that you hold the power to shape your reality. This power has always been available to you. It's always been within you. The only difference now is that you've chosen to become aware of it, to consciously acknowledge that the ability to co-create is part of your inherent nature. This is the true essence of prosperity, not simply the accumulation of material wealth or the achievements society deems successful. True prosperity is the deep knowing that creation is not a mere privilege, but an integral part of who you are. You were created in the image of the Creator, as it is written in Genesis 1 verse 27. This means that you too are endowed with the power to create. You don't just have the right to imagine, you have the authority to bring those imaginations into reality, provided they align with divine will and truth. As you grow more conscious of this divine reality, you begin to live with a heightened sense of creative awareness. You start noticing patterns in your thoughts, repeated images or desires that keep returning to your mind, often uninvited but persistent nonetheless. Instead of dismissing them, you begin to listen closely. Could it be that these recurring thoughts are not just fleeting daydreams, but rather spiritual blueprints, waiting to be activated by your focus, belief, and action? Consider the real-life example of Tyler Perry, the actor and filmmaker. He was born into poverty and trauma, but he began writing stories as a means of healing. He once said, "I didn't know I was planting seeds for my future." Those stories he wrote, those seeds he planted, eventually became his reality. Today, Tyler Perry owns a major film studio. But his success didn't arise from luck. It came from holding steadfast to his vision, fueled by consistent faith, even when no one else could see the potential. So now, take a moment and reflect. What thoughts and desires keep returning to your mind, no matter how often you try to push them aside? These thoughts are not distractions. They are seeds, vibrationally aligned with manifestation. They are calling you to recognize your own creative authority. The question is, will you continue to ignore them, or will you choose to honor them as the divine whisper of destiny written on your heart? This level of awareness elevates not only your mental state, but your entire existence. No longer will you drift through life unconsciously, allowing thoughts to come and go without any real intention. Instead, you will begin to realize that your thoughts are not random or inconsequential. They are powerful tools, each one a piece of the divine design shaping your life. As one of God's chosen, this awakening invites you to take full responsibility for the reality you are creating. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are always creating. However, with this power comes a profound responsibility. If misused, this creative force can lead to unintended consequences. Creating without conscious intent is like navigating a ship without a captain, allowing the waves to decide your course and hoping you'll reach your destination. Can you really afford to let your life be governed by autopilot? The truth is, your thoughts are more than mere reflections of your experiences. They are prayers in motion. Every mental image you entertain, every internal dialogue you have, and every repeated worry or hope is a spiritual request. Whether you consciously intend it or not, you are always sending out signals into the universe, asking for alignment with your inner desires and beliefs. Your thoughts are the blueprint, and your faith is the energy that brings those blueprints into physical reality. The question now is, will you begin to direct your thoughts with the intention and awareness of the creator that you are? Will you choose to co-create consciously with the divine, shaping the life you are always meant to live? Your thoughts begin to shape and form your reality, whether you're fully aware of it or not. It's a subtle process, almost imperceptible, but immensely powerful. The mark you carry within you, this divine imprint, is not something trivial. It demands intentionality. It calls you to be profoundly aware of your inner world, because whether you notice it or not, whatever you feed your mind begins to grow. And once that seed grows strong enough, it starts reaching outward, seeking a way into the physical world. Scripture affirms this truth in Philippians 4:8, where Paul, with great precision, urges believers to fix their thoughts only on things that are true, noble, pure, lovely, admirable, essentially on things that are aligned with divine truth. Why such a specific list? Because God understands the profound nature of the mind. He knows it is fertile ground. Whatever you plant there, whether it is fear or faith, doubt or vision, will eventually bear fruit. It doesn't happen overnight, but in time, what you nurture internally will begin to manifest outwardly. So, the question remains, what are you feeding your mind? Are you being intentional with your thoughts, or are you allowing weeds to grow unchecked? It's a critical question because, just like a garden, if you're not purposeful about what you cultivate, your mind will unconsciously tend to grow things you might not want. Take a moment to consider David, long before he became a king. David's story is profound. He spent years tending sheep in the fields, preparing for his destiny in a place few would have seen as significant. But in those solitary fields, David was shaping his mind. He meditated on God's word, building a consciousness that aligned with victory, long before he ever stood in front of Goliath. When that day came, it wasn't fear that filled David's mind, but a quiet confidence. He knew that the same God who delivered him from the lion and the bear would deliver him from the hand of this Philistine. Samuel 17:37. His victory began in his mind, long before it was realized in the physical battle. This process isn't just unique to David. It happens in your life too. Have you ever noticed how the thoughts and ideas you nurture in your mind begin to show up in your life? That dream you've kept revisiting, almost like a silent prayer, eventually evolves into something more tangible, a conversation, an opportunity, and then a breakthrough. These things don't just occur by chance. They are a direct result of the law of sowing and reaping at work in your consciousness. The late Dr. Wayne Dyer, a world-renowned author and speaker, once said, "You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are." This is a powerful truth. Your external reality is a mirror of your internal state. If you carry the mark of divine purpose, you cannot afford to leave that internal atmosphere to chance. Your thoughts and intentions matter immensely. So I ask you, what are you feeding your mind? What images do you replay in your thoughts each day? Remember, your thoughts are not just fleeting clouds. They are seeds. They are blueprints, carefully constructing the framework of your future. When you nurture these seeds with repetition, emotion, and focus, they inevitably take root. These thoughts begin to shape the very fabric of your life. So, the question arises, will you allow your mind to be guided by fear, distractions, and negativity? Or will you rise to the spiritual responsibility that comes with carrying this divine mark? Will you consciously think, create, and build in alignment with the higher plan God has for your life? The mind of someone marked by divine purpose is not ordinary. It is a spiritual portal, a sacred gateway between the seen and the unseen. Like all portals, it doesn't judge what passes through it. It simply responds to the energy, intention, and frequency that is sent through it. In practical terms, this means that whatever you focus on, whatever you dwell upon, whatever you imagine repeatedly, will pass through this portal and begin to manifest in your world. It's not just a philosophical concept, it's deeply personal. If you carry this mark, you are already experiencing a shift in your spiritual journey. You may have felt it, haven't you? You are no longer merely a passive observer of life. You are not here just to survive or to understand the world around you from a distance. No, you are here to shape it. Your role has evolved. You are no longer merely a seeker. You are becoming a co-creator with God in this divine process. This, my friend, is where true enlightenment begins. It's not when you merely ask for signs or answers, but when you realize that you are an active participant in the creation of your own life. Have you felt that shift? The realization that life is no longer something that happens to you, but something that happens through you? This truth resonates deeply with the words of Jesus in John 14 verse 12. Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. These greater things, Jesus promises, will not come by human strength or power. They will arise from divine union. It is through this union, this sacred alignment with God's will, that you are empowered to do more than you ever thought possible. The shift is real. The power to create, to build, and to shape your future has always been within you. It's time to tap into it. When you stop perceiving God as something distant and unreachable, and instead begin to live with Him as someone who walks beside you daily, a profound transformation begins to unfold in your reality. Your prayers cease to be mere requests, and instead they become a dialogue, a conversation with the divine. Your visions are no longer abstract, but they take shape as clear instructions guiding your every step. The thoughts that arise within you are no longer just fleeting ideas. They become the brushstrokes of a masterpiece being painted through your life. This intimate union with God, the Creator, the source of all things, no longer remains an abstract concept. It becomes a living, breathing practice woven into the fabric of your daily existence. You start to understand that God is not separate from you. His Spirit resides within you, as it says in 1 Corinthians 3 verse 16. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? With this truth, the universe no longer feels like a distant entity beyond your reach. Instead, it becomes an extension of your consciousness, a reflection of your alignment with divine truth. This realization is both empowering and humbling. Take, for example, the visionary genius of Nikola Tesla, an innovator whose understanding of the universe extended far beyond the realm of science and technology. Tesla once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Though he did not use religious language, his insights align closely with ancient biblical wisdom, which teaches that the unseen realm, the spiritual, the energetic, creates and shapes the visible world. In essence, what you see is a reflection of what exists beyond the surface. As someone chosen by God, you are now living in alignment with this same truth. You may begin to notice that your outer world is shifting in direct response to your inner clarity. Have you stopped merely asking for change and started actively co-creating it? When you're fully aligned with purpose, clarity, and truth, life no longer feels like an endless series of challenges. Instead, it bends in your direction. This is not mere imagination. It's a sign that you've entered a new dimension of your calling. Your mind has ceased to be just a passive receiver of life's circumstances. It has become a portal of divine expression, shaping the world around you with every thought, every intention, and every decision you make. Through your acts of faith, you bring heaven closer to earth. With each choice to align with love, wisdom, and vision, you are fulfilling the very mission that God placed in your soul long before you were born. You might not fully grasp how this works just yet, but one thing is certain. The universe created by God responds to the energy you emit. As one of God's chosen ones, your vibration, your emotional and spiritual frequency holds far more power than you may realize. Whether you are conscious of it or not, the energy you radiate acts as a signal to both heaven and earth. That signal attracts outcomes, relationships, and opportunities that match its tone. Have you ever noticed how certain patterns seem to repeat around you when your inner world undergoes a shift? That's not mere coincidence. It's alignment at work. When you carry this sacred mark, you are no longer free to think carelessly. You must learn to choose your thoughts with wisdom, faith, and intention, for few responsibilities are as great as this. The ability to influence your reality simply by existing in harmony with your God-given essence. Many people go through life unaware of how their inner dialogue is shaping the world around them, but you are called to live consciously. You are meant to think with purpose, to create with reverence. This truth is echoed in Proverbs 4:23, which says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." The heart and mind are intricately connected. What you dwell on internally will eventually manifest externally. Your inner life is not a private secret place. It is a spiritual command center, broadcasting frequencies that shape the future you are creating. This is why the power of mental alignment is the most transformative of all. It doesn't simply change how others respond to you, it changes how reality itself responds to you. When your thoughts align with your divine identity, when your mind is filled with truth, faith, and clarity, the very fabric of your world begins to shift. Consider someone like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years imprisoned, yet never allowed bitterness to dominate his mind. Instead, he cultivated vision, forgiveness, and leadership in his thoughts. When he was finally released, the world around him rose to meet the reality he had long been holding within. You, too, are being called to cultivate this level of inner mastery. The more you live in alignment with truth, peace, and divine purpose, the more your life becomes a testimony, not of random chance, but of a chosen vibration. You may have already encountered the 3 spiritual marks: your healing frequency, your gift of inner manifestation, and your mind's creative alignment. But now, as you recognize these marks, you may be wondering what comes next. Identifying these marks is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you stop seeing them as mere traits to possess, and instead embrace them as assignments with a deep divine purpose. These gifts were not given to you by accident. They are the signs of a deeper calling, one that demands more of you, but also rewards you with clarity, purpose, and divine impact. These marks are not just spiritual decorations, they are invitations. Each one is a doorway into your next level of growth, and it is up to you to walk through. However, the more aware you become of who you truly are, the more resistance you may encounter. Why? Because the enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. The moment you begin living with intention, shaping reality with your vibration, manifesting God's vision through your mind, healing others through your presence, darkness takes notice. This is why chosen ones often feel misunderstood, attacked, or isolated. But don't let that discourage you. Let it confirm what heaven already knows about you. In Isaiah 61 it says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This rising is not always smooth. It requires shedding old patterns, choosing higher thoughts, and trusting the Spirit more than your senses. But this is exactly how the chosen ones grow. You are now being called to live from a higher place, a realm where you don't simply react to life, but command it through divine alignment. Can you feel it? That shift inside of you, the inner pull urging you to step up, to no longer hide or second-guess your gifts. You were never meant to blend in. Your frequency was designed to awaken others, to rewrite atmospheres, to shift the very air you breathe. Your journey is sacred, and you must choose how to use these marks. Will you bury them in fear, or will you multiply them in faith? Living with these spiritual marks is both a blessing and a burden. It sets you apart, but it also sets you up for pressures and challenges that others may never understand. When you carry this spiritual weight, you may often feel like you're walking a path invisible to those around you. You may wonder why you're tested more, attacked more, or misunderstood more, when all you've done is strive to live in truth. But that is exactly what makes you different. You are not living for yourself. You are carrying light into dark places. As Jesus said in Luke 12:48, "To whom much is given, much will be required." You have been entrusted with the ability to heal through your presence, to create through your thoughts, and to influence reality through divine frequency. These gifts demand awareness, discipline, and spiritual maturity. You were made for such a time as this, and it is time to rise and shine. Have you ever noticed how quickly your thoughts seem to manifest consequences now? It's as if your energy shifts the room without you needing to do a thing. People find themselves either drawn to you or curiously repelled. There's no neutral ground anymore, and it's not just coincidence. The intensity of your presence is shifting the atmosphere, and with that shift comes a deeper understanding. You're no longer just existing in the world, you're aligned with something greater. This is a sign that your light is becoming too strong to be ignored. You're not just a passive participant anymore, but an active force in shaping the space around you. It's as if the universe itself is leaning in to listen more closely to what you are becoming. And here's where the true beauty lies. When you step into alignment with your higher calling, you are never left to navigate it alone. You are supported by divine forces, receiving resources, insights, and guidance that seem to appear just when you need them most. Think about the story of Joseph. In Egypt, he went from being abandoned in a pit to ascending to a position of power in the palace. His journey wasn't easy, nor was it instantaneous. There were moments of betrayal, loneliness, and struggle. Yet every moment served as preparation. His trials were not punishments, they were shaping him for the purpose he was destined to fulfill. In the same way, every delay in your life, every betrayal, and every door that closed had a greater purpose. They have sharpened your discernment, refined your intentions, and set you up for something even greater. But now there's a question that demands your attention. Will you remain faithful when no one notices? Will you continue to create even when no applause echoes around you? Will you keep vibrating with truth when the noise of the world grows deafening? These are the moments when the true chosen ones are refined, not in the spotlight light, but in the quiet and often painful silence. It's not on the mountain tops, but in the caves where you are molded. Just as Elijah encountered God not in the wind, earthquake, or fire, but in the still small voice, 1 Kings 19:12, can you trust that same whisper within your own heart? The whisper that tells you, even when things don't make sense, that you are still on the right path. You are not ordinary. You never were. These marks upon your soul, the spiritual energy you carry, the capacity to see things clearly, the divine vibrations that seem to ripple through your every action, are not random. They are evidence that you were born for something higher. Every challenge you've faced has revealed your capacity, not to break you, but to prepare you for the greater work ahead. Now you are being called to rise, not with noise or clamor, but with a quiet confidence, grounded in knowing. Not driven by fear, but by focused presence. So how do you align yourself with these marks of divine destiny? How do you tune into that healing frequency, that creative mind, that divine vibration? The answer isn't found in doing more, but in becoming more aware of who you truly are. From that awareness, your thoughts, words, and actions begin to shift. The first step is to guard your thoughts as though they are precious seeds. Not every idea deserves your energy. Not every fear deserves your attention. You must become the gatekeeper of your mind, filtering everything through the lens of truth. In 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5, we are reminded to take every thought captive, making it obedient to Christ. Why? Because thoughts are never passive, they are seeds, and the seeds you water will grow roots that shape your reality. Ask yourself every day, is this thought building me up or tearing me down? Is it in alignment with the person God says I am, or does it take me further away from that truth? The more aware you become of the power of your thoughts, the more intentional your inner world becomes, and as your inner world shifts, so too does the world around you. Next, you must protect your spiritual energy. Not everyone is meant to have access to your frequency. As your light intensifies, some will try to dim it, not necessarily out of malice, but out of fear, jealousy, or confusion. Even Jesus needed solitude to recharge, withdrawing to quiet places to pray, Luke 5 verse 16. If he, the Son of God, needed rest, how much more do you? Make space for silence, make time for stillness. Your power is honed in rest, not just in action. Above all, stay connected to the source. The power that flows through you doesn't come from self-made manifestation or worldly success. It comes from spirit-led creation. When you co-create with God, your life transcends mere effectiveness. It becomes eternal in its impact. You begin to attract divine timing. Your actions ripple across generations. Think of someone like Martin Luther King Jr., whose voice resonated across the globe, not because he was the loudest, but because he was spiritually aligned. His words, his actions, flowed from a deep well of prayer, vision, and unshakable conviction. He reshaped history, not by reacting to it, but by being a vessel of divine purpose. That same current of spiritual power runs through you. Now you stand at a crossroads. Will you live in distraction, or will you rise in your destiny? Will you ignore the divine marks upon your soul, or will you step fully into the calling they represent? You don't need anyone's permission to become the person God has already made you to be. You were never meant to simply survive. You were made to transform the atmosphere around you, and the time to begin is now. To carry these 3 spiritual marks, healing frequency, creative mind, and divine vibration, is no small blessing. In a world consumed by noise, illusion, and constant distraction, you have been marked to be different. Your presence is not meant to blend in. You are here to disturb the patterns of darkness with the quiet strength of your light. You are called to expose falsehoods, not by shouting them down, but by simply being aligned with truth. That is your mission. However, this mission is not always loud or attention-grabbing. It is not about preaching on stages or performing miracles for applause. Often, your greatest impact will be invisible to the eye, but undeniable in effect. You shift environments with your silence. You change the energy in a room by simply being present. Have you noticed how people open up to you, confessing things they've never shared with anyone? Or how others seem uncomfortable in your presence, even when you've done nothing to provoke it? You are carrying a spiritual mirror. Your light reveals the truth in others, whether they are ready to face it or not. Jesus once said, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Matthew 5:14. That is who you are. But remember this, light is not always celebrated. Sometimes it is rejected. Even Jesus was rejected in his own hometown, Luke 4:24. So don't be surprised when your truth triggers resistance. That is part of the journey. In a world obsessed with followers, trends, and titles, your path is different. You've been called to lead with spirit, not ego. Your power comes from obedience to the unseen, not from chasing what is popular. You may not always be understood, but you will be remembered for the way you made others feel safe, seen, and spiritually awakened. That is legacy. That is leadership. While others search for answers in the chaos of the world, you have been chosen to bring answers from the kingdom within you. As the world craves stability, you've been entrusted with a peace that surpasses understanding. Philippians 4:7. You are a living sanctuary, proof that God still plants himself in people. But now the question is this: will you fully embrace this divine assignment? Will you step out of your comfort zone and into your calling? The world doesn't need more noise. It needs those who carry light intentionally. Think of Esther, who was told, "Perhaps you were born for such a time as this." Esther 4:14. That moment wasn't just hers, it's yours too. You were marked, not to escape the darkness, but to reveal the light within it. You were called not to avoid the world, but to reshape it. Through divine vibration, this is your mission. Not someday, not when you feel more ready, but right now, just as you are. The world as it stands is groaning for healing, truth, and clarity. Everywhere you look, systems are collapsing, identities are being questioned, and fear is rising. Amidst all of this, many are being swept away by the chaos. But you are rising within it. Not because you're better, but because you were built for this moment. This is why you carry those 3 spiritual marks within you. They were never meant to be hidden. They were meant to be activated for such a time as this, when the world is desperate for those who can bring light into the darkness. This generation does not need more followers. It needs activators of light. It needs people like you, those who are in alignment with their divine frequency, who create from a space of intention, and who emanate healing, even in silence. Do you understand how rare that is? Do you feel how deeply needed that is? You are not here to escape the brokenness of this world. You are here to reveal a higher reality from within it. You are the light that this world needs, not as a flash in the pan, but as a constant beacon of hope, clarity, and love. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 8:19, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." That's you. The earth is not waiting for celebrities, politicians, or influencers to save it. No, the earth is waiting for the revealing of the chosen ones, those who know who they are in God, who walk in that divine authority with grace and wisdom. You don't have to save everyone. You don't have to fix the whole world. All you need to do is show up fully, unapologetically as yourself. When you step into your true essence, your healing frequency impacts those around you, whether you speak or not. Your thoughts, the very energy you project, are already forming invisible bridges to a better future. Just by existing, you are calling others higher, helping them to rise with you. Your mere presence is a catalyst for change. But here's the truth that many do not want to hear. Being chosen is not the same as being celebrated. It is being set apart. And sometimes that can feel incredibly lonely. But isolation is not punishment. It is preparation. Just as Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading a nation, just as Jesus fasted alone in the desert before beginning his ministry, your time of solitude is sacred. It is where God fine-tunes your frequency, where he sharpens you to prepare you for what's to come. Don't resist the quiet seasons. Curse the delays. They are not hindrances. They are the crucibles where you are being refined. What you carry must be clear, pure, and consecrated before it can be entrusted with greater influence. And when the moment comes, when the timing aligns with your readiness, God will place you exactly where you are needed most. You won't need to force doors open. You won't need to convince anyone to believe in you. Your very frequency will speak for you. Your clarity will create. Your alignment will unlock everything heaven has already written with your name on it. So now, ask yourself, are you willing to let go of who you were in order to step fully into who you're becoming? Are you ready to carry these 3 spiritual marks, not just with humility, but with courage? Because the world is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for your presence, your authentic, unapologetic presence. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when knowing is no longer enough. You feel it, don't you? You've moved from asking for signs to becoming the sign. You've gone from observing miracles to becoming the miracle. You've stopped wondering what your purpose is and realized you are the vessel through which purpose flows. Alive, breathing, vibrating with divine intention, and being led moment by moment. You are not just called to understand the 3 spiritual marks you carry. You are called to live them, to embody them fully. You walk into a room, and healing flows without effort. You speak a word, and someone's heart cracks open in profound transformation. You sit in silence, and that silence becomes a presence that shifts the atmosphere. This is not mere imagination. This is the reality of a soul in full alignment with its divine purpose. And alignment, remember, is not a destination. It's a way of life. It's the conscious choice to stay centered in truth, even when emotions rise. It's listening more intently to the quiet voice within than to the noise that surrounds you. It's treating every moment, every breath as sacred, because when you are aligned, everything becomes sacred. Consider the life of Jesus. He didn't rush, he didn't chase after anything. He simply moved in rhythm with heaven. When he healed, it was with intention and compassion. When he taught, it pierced hearts. And when he was silent, even that silence carried revelation. That same Spirit, the same power that raised him from the dead, dwells within you. Romans 8:11 confirms this. The Spirit of God, who raised Jesus from the dead, lives in you. So why are you still playing small? Why are you still shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer serve you? The version of you that the world has been waiting for is the one that steps into their true identity without fear or hesitation. Your mission now is not to prove your power. It's to align so deeply with your divine purpose that power flows through you effortlessly. You are not here to beg for blessings. You are here to realize that you are the blessing. And when you live from this place, when you recognize that you are the blessing, life doesn't necessarily become easier. It becomes anointed. Your struggles become initiations. Your moments of solitude become sacred sanctuaries. Your every breath becomes a prayer in motion. As you live this out, people begin to see you differently. It's not because you are louder, richer, or more impressive. It's because your spirit carries something timeless, something they've forgotten, but are longing to remember, something eternal. So now that you've remembered who you are, the question remains, Will you live as if it's true? Will you rise each day not just as a human seeking meaning, but as a chosen one sent to radiate truth in a world starving for it? This is not just about what you carry, it's about what you activate in others. When you fully embody who you are, others can't help but be awakened by your presence. They begin to realize their own divine potential, their own purpose. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey when they realize they're no longer searching for purpose, they've become its living expression. You stop chasing meaning because you now embody it. You stop seeking signs because you've become the sign. You are a walking message, a frequency of heaven encoded in human form. And that awareness changes everything. You begin to notice that your life flows with greater precision. The confusion you once felt begins to dissipate. The pain, the delays, the betrayals, you now see them as part of the divine sculpting process. God wasn't punishing you, he was preparing you. As Paul writes in 2 Timothy 2:21, those who cleanse themselves will be instruments for special purposes, made holy, useful to the master, and prepared to do any good work. That is what you are becoming, a sacred instrument, finely tuned and set apart for divine purpose. That's why your mind had to be purified. That's why your thoughts are more powerful now. That's why your presence affects others without you even trying. It's all part of the divine design. And now the deeper invitation comes. Will you allow yourself to become fully available to your divine assignment? Not just when it's convenient or inspiring, but even when it costs you comfort, familiarity, and the illusion of control. Because when you walk in full surrender, your life becomes miraculously efficient. The right doors open effortlessly. The wrong connections fall away without drama. Your energy becomes sacred, and heaven guards it with precision. You don't chase, you attract. You don't strive, you synchronize. You don't beg, you believe. This is the life of a chosen one. Though not always easy, it is always meaningful. Not always praised, but always guided. And when you truly live in this flow, the supernatural becomes natural. You begin to experience peace in the midst of chaos, clarity in confusion, provision where there was once lack. Your very existence becomes living proof of God's ongoing work in the world. Think of Noah, the man who built the ark. Long before a single drop of rain ever fell, Noah wasn't responding to the world around him. He wasn't swayed by the mockery or the confusion of others. Instead, he was attuned to a frequency from heaven, one that no one else could hear. The world laughed, ridiculed his every step, but Noah wasn't building for their approval. He was building for what was to come. And when the flood arrived, he was ready. Are you ready to build what God is showing you, even if no one around you understands it? Are you prepared to walk by faith and not by sight, trusting that the divine frequency you're tuned into has already gone ahead of you and prepared the way? Remember, you weren't chosen to blend into this world. You were chosen to recalibrate it. Your life is the arc. Your vision is the blueprint, and your presence is the proof that heaven still speaks to this earth. As we near the end of today's message, take a quiet moment to reflect on the profound truth that you, as one of God's chosen, carry within you 3 powerful spiritual marks. Whether you're fully aware of them or not, they are already at work in your life, guiding you, shaping your character, and revealing the depth of your unique purpose. Jesus spoke these words in Matthew 12, verse 35, "A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him." What you cultivate within you, your thoughts, your actions, your heart, will inevitably flow out into the world. And in your case, this flow will not be just any flow. It will be divine. Life, healing, wisdom, and awakening will spring forth from the very essence of the Creator that resides within you. So I ask you, what are you storing inside? What are you radiating to those around you? What influences are shaping your thoughts, your actions, your heart? If you align yourself with the divine calling on your life, you will discover that life is no longer something that happens to you. It begins to flow through you. You become a vessel of purpose, a channel for transformation, a beacon of light in a world that desperately needs it. If your heart is stirring as you listen to these words, if something within you is awakening to the divine calling on your life, I invite you to take the next step. Join this community, subscribe to this channel, and dive deeper into the journey of self-discovery, spiritual growth, and divine awakening. Here, we don't just skim the surface of life. We are a collective of God's chosen ones, a generation awakening to our highest spiritual potential. Together, we are creating a movement of conscious beings who understand that we are not just living for a purpose. We are the purpose. We are God's living idea manifesting on this earth, experiencing life through our skin and spirit. You must understand this truth that I speak. You are not here to search for a purpose. You are the purpose. You are God's divine expression in this world. The path you walk is not just your personal journey. It is the sacred unfolding of God's will, moving through you, step by step, revealing itself with every breath. The world is waiting for the full revelation of what you carry within. The world is waiting for you. So walk boldly. Step into the unknown with unwavering faith. Know that the infinite possibilities you've been waiting for are already on their way to you. The doors of destiny are opening before you, and you are not walking through them by chance. You are walking through them by divine design. Your purpose is not something you have to chase. It is something already flowing toward you, drawing you into alignment with God's will. If this message resonates with your soul and stirs something deep within you, if you feel compelled to support this ongoing journey, I invite you to consider donating through Super S. Your generosity helps sustain this sacred space where divine truth, wisdom, and awakening can continue to flourish and reach more souls like yours. Whether you choose to donate or not, please know that I am deeply grateful for your presence, your support, and your commitment to this journey in whatever form it takes. I encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this message with anyone you know who might need to hear this truth. And if you feel moved, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear how this message has impacted you. Let's keep this conversation alive. Let's rise together in the fullness of our divine calling. May God bless you abundantly. May His favor rest upon you, and may you continue to walk boldly in the light of His love, knowing that you are the living proof of His divine purpose manifesting in the world. God bless you always.